Welcome back, gentlemen. Today we're going to discuss about how we should deal with the opinions, perceptions, and criticisms of other people. This is an extremely important one, as it seems people are still struggling with this particular issue even though they have been remarked millions of times to not give a shit about them. Eventually it gets them to become chronically frustrated and inevitably compromising their own mental health through imploding their own mental dialogue with themselves. Now let me just start by telling you gentlemen a simple truth. We cannot completely ignore people's opinions and treat them as if they're just some gusts in the wind. We are social creatures for many different reasons, and we are biologically hardwired to engage in social interactions or activities in order to help us further solidify our judgments and make better decisions with regards to many different aspects about life and the world we live in to complement our chances of survival. That is why we have the natural tendencies to compare and contrast ourselves with other people. That is why we love to exchange ideas and opinions to cultivate our level of knowledge and understanding from different perspectives. And before some of you say, "Oh, you're wrong, we don't naturally seek social interactions, I'm more comfortable on my own. In fact, I feel even more alone when I'm with people." Well, that's because you are hanging around with the wrong people that don't complement your own values and circumstances. Of course you wouldn't last. Every loner and lone wolf are secretly hoping and trying to find a pack that they can conform to. Stop lying to yourself. If we are natural loners, loneliness won't be a problem to human beings. Social media wouldn't even exist, and they wouldn't have become the mecca of the world's operations and activities they are today. However, as much as we like to naturally interact with other people to showcase or exchange ideas, concepts, and opinions, it won't always be a walk in the park. Disagreements, arguments, debates, criticisms, and even verbal abuse are bound to occur when we're dealing with the awakening and collision of multiple cognitive dissonances and ego investments. When we start to care too much or get too invested in them, it can compromise our own mental well-being because of the complexity and polarity in both the way human beings make judgments and the way they communicate or deliver their judgments that can throw us off balance. That is why we are constantly fed by the opposite narrative to not give a floating shit about them. However, there is a problem or limitation with this narrative. Caring too little or completely ignoring people's opinions and judgments of us will eventually shield us away from our own potential for further personal development, and can escalate to us being deluded with our own incomplete or shallow judgments, especially with regards to our own character, knowledge, and set of attitudes. Now, I will wholeheartedly admit that I was also guilty of being too ignorant and delusional to say that I absolutely and completely don't care about what people think about me. The usual love me or hate me attitude, while in reality, secretly, I still do, to an extent, even now. You see, gentlemen, what made all of us so bewildered, insecure, and frustrated in dealing with other people's opinions of us is with regards to three crucial reasons that must be understood. Number one, we do not know the extent on which of them and how many of them we should give a shit about. Number two, from whose opinions we should give a shit about. And number three, the attitude on how we should perceive opinions from the many ways people can deliver them. In other words, one, we have very little awareness and acknowledgement of our own set of traits that we both should pay more attention and shouldn't pay any attention to when people give us their opinions about them. Two, we want to know from which specific type of individuals we should pay attention to when they give us their opinions. And three, how we should perceive opinions from different types of tonality in which they are delivered with. In essence, it's all about filtering which we should give a shit about and which we shouldn't give a shit about. Now, in terms of the traits that we need to pay more attention to when people give their opinions on, in this case is going to be slightly different from person to person, but it all comes down to these four metrics. One, whether those traits are personally meaningful for you and your well-being. Two, whether they are crucial or critical for survival. Three, whether they contribute positively to your own personal development. And four, whether they are things that are in your control. You want to give a shit on the traits about yourself and people's opinions about them that will, quote-unquote, constructively and realistically contribute to those four metrics. If they do not constructively and realistically contribute to any of those four metrics, do not give a rat's ass about them or people's opinions about them. For example, things such as your personal appearance, lifestyle, knowledge, and financial well-being are things that you can control, contribute massively to your own personal development, and they are crucial or critical for your survival. And things such as your height, the shape of your nose, or your genetics are things that you have absolutely no control over, and they contribute literally nothing to your personal development. In terms of from whose opinions, criticisms, and judgments we should give a shit about, it's fairly simple and straightforward, really. Identify those people who fulfill at least two, but ideally all of these three criteria. Number one, people of much higher authority and reputation than yourself, so that you have more assurance of their credibility or competence in the areas of life that you want to improve on. Number 2, people that you can significantly relate to your real-life circumstances, so they actually understand the nuts and bolts of what you're going through both cognitively and emotionally. And number 3, people whom you can take significant or full aspirations from, so that you can be showcased and have more clarity in the direction you want to go in life and the steps that you have to take. So it's pretty simple really. If you gentlemen encounter an online troll or an online bully whom you have absolutely no acquaintance or association with, and who doesn't have any form of credibility, relatability, and positively encouraging reputation, why would you even give a shit of what they have to say? And speaking of online trolls and bullies, now we come to the part on how we should perceive people's opinions from the vast arrays of tonality and medium that they can deliver them with. Now this is probably the part where all of us struggle the most. In fact, I think this is the main reason of why we eventually and begrudgingly decide to not give a shit about people's opinions on us. The way people's opinions, criticisms, and judgments are delivered are very important to the perspective or the attitude in which we eventually acknowledge them. One criticism can be delivered in 2 different ways in tonality, and they can have dramatically different effect on how we grasp them. Of course, all of this depends on the individual's level of familiarity and tolerance. For example, one person can criticize another person's appearance through an empathetic and nurturing tone like, "This is quite worrying me, mate. Your weight gain is making you harder to be taken seriously by others, and it's starting to take a toll on your health as well. You should consider going to the gym and start a weight loss journey. I'll help you out." And another person can criticize through a brutal and straightforward tone like, "Look at you, you flabby butt. No wonder girls don't want to fuck you because you literally look like a molten mashed potato. You willing to die a virgin? Go and lift some weight, you fat fuck." Same message, different tonality. And many of us struggle to grasp the latter because we are too occupied with the emotional impact of a non-empathetic or non-formal form of communication. But if I'm going to be honest, when it comes to personal criticisms, fuck your feelings really. The only thing that matters is not how the opinion is delivered, it's what's in the opinion itself. Look for the substance behind them, gentlemen, no matter what tonality they are delivered with. If the opinions or criticisms have absolutely no substance, reflection to your reality, relatability, congruency, and constructiveness within them, you should absolutely don't give 2 shits about them. All in all though, gentlemen, the most important thing is your own brutal and realistic assessments of yourselves. So many of us are afraid to do that, and we rely on people's opinions to dictate our thoughts and actions no matter how useless and insignificant they are to us. Because for some reason we care more about people's opinions on us than our own assessments of ourselves, indefinitely and eventually making us seeking or prioritizing their approval over our own. Gentlemen, your own practical and reasonable judgments of yourselves are what will ultimately be the deciding factor of how genuinely satisfied, confident, and proud you are of your own existence. Because that is why you will radiate to everyone that encounters you, regardless of their opinions and criticisms. If you are able to become more level-headed and pragmatic towards yourself and your circumstances than any other person on earth can be to you, all of the things that I've said previously wouldn't matter much. Unfortunately today, that is hardly the case, as we are afraid to even look at ourselves in the mirror and judge ourselves with a level of honesty that causes discomfort yet incentivizes the urge to grow. Thank you for watching.